Today on Pots and Trowels we're visiting a British flower grower to see what's looking good in early autumn, and that's brought to you with the support of Cobra Garden and Allett. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, I'm in Nottinghamshire today at Floral Media, home of Stephen and Paula Routledge, and we've been here before to have a look at their amazing garden, but today I've come back to have a look at a new venture that they started only earlier this year, which is growing cut flowers. So I'm going to wander down their field and find them to see what they're up to. Well, it looks like you're keeping busy cutting flowers. Have you got an order you're making up?
Oh, there's always a job to do.
Oh, right. I can't believe how much this has changed since I last came, because it was a stubble field and then it was ploughed and now it's full of beautiful flowers. So you've obviously been really busy this summer.
We have.
So I'm going to let you carry on picking flowers and I'll catch up with you in a bit. Stephen, do you want to tell me how you've done all this?
Yeah.
Can you explain how it's all come together? Because you're on a field here of wet, sticky clay, but you're growing beautiful cut flowers.
The thing is, you have to work with the soil you're blessed with, don't you? So you've got no choice on that. This land came up for sale, so we took the plunge, and we've always wanted to go into growing cut flowers commercially, and I've worked in it for many years in the past as well in the industry. And so we start with the soil. It's red Cobra marl, so it's heavy. You end up 3 inches taller if you walk on it when it's rained. It's that clay. So we just we know that the soil's inherently okay in terms of its fertility. So we just need organic matter, and we decided to use a bed system. So we've got paths that we are currently looking for bark to fill in so that we don't get wet, muddy feet when we walk on it, and then the actual bed itself is there pretty much forever without too much interference, other than lots of organic matter that we're going to apply.
So what sort of width are the beds? Are they about?
So four foot, yeah, thereabouts.
Okay.
We use it. We've got a tractor, and we use basically the width of the wheels
of
the tractor, and so that we can go on with a rotavator if we have to. But Paula frowns upon that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to get the soil into, because they're raised, we can see it's almost like a little mini raised bed running the full length here. I mean, these are peonies, aren't they, just here? So these are newly planted this year but not yet flowered?
No, they actually flowered in the first year. We'd already got them in a nursery bed, and we took the plunge and moved them, and they actually flowered incredibly well for the first time. Shouldn't have done, but it's a lovely open aspect here, and I think the peonies do like full sun, don't they? So
exactly,
and they seem to love it, and the organic matter's helped everything.
Okay, now obviously you're doing this on a big commercial scale, but anybody doing this in their garden or allotment, they can do the same sort of thing, can't they? Just scale it all down.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, but organic matter is the key. Compost, anything, doesn't matter what it is, get it rotted down and use it on your garden and just build that natural symbiosis with the soil and the organic matter and the worms. And
so where you've got the beds, you just put loads of the organic matter on there to mound it up and create this.
We don't just throw it on. Obviously, it's a lot of the no-dig systems just say put it on.
Yeah.
We've worked the soil first. I'm a bit 50-50 with the no-dig, but I do like it, and it's definitely got a lot going for it. But heavy soil has its other issues, so we deep work the soil with a rotavator. Right,
because otherwise you wouldn't have the drainage, would you?
No. And then we use organic matter, and that whole top 6-8 inches of soil, that's the key for us.
Right.
And that's what we're working with.
And then every year you've got to keep topping that up.
Definitely, even if you've got a perennial crop like the peonies, we'll go 1 to 2 inches deep around them every year, and off we go. And we're trying to make our own compost as much as we can.
So on a scale, and we reckon this bit you're doing at the moment is about 1/4 of an acre, and you're going to expand it over the years. You need a lot of compost to do this.
Yeah.
In tonnes we're talking.
We do. Yeah, I mean, I'm estimating that probably this area will need 80 tonnes.
Wow.
In volume, so maybe not weight terms, so that's 80,000 cubic.
Yeah.
And then we probably need 300 tonnes ultimately.
On an annual basis?
Yes.
Right.
Once we get to the full whack.
Yeah.
We've built a big composting system now. We've always done the hotbed system, which I think you've shown before.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to replicate that again as well.
Right. Okay. And presumably everything, I mean, obviously the pin is a perennial, but everything else, like the sunflowers and the zinnias at the end of the season, they will be chopped down and they will go into the compost. It's all part of the cycle.
Yeah, it is, but we've obviously found with cut flowers that they seed readily.
Right.
And which is, with veg is not such an issue, but with flowers we get volunteers constantly, which some are happy volunteers, but we don't always want them.
Right. So weed control, is that a case of going through with the hoe then to chop all those seedlings out?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, especially if you're trying to be organic.
Yes,
So
exactly.
again, it's whatever your principles are.
Yeah, so quite labour intensive, but the great thing is these are all British grown flowers, aren't they? You know, which is got to be much more sustainable than flying them in from the other side of the world.
You would like to think so, and we propagate ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So it's no mean feat.
No,
definitely.
and water's all out the ground. It's all groundwater, isn't it?
From a private source on site, so a borehole which we pump into a big tank, and then that's got a high pressure feed that can come out. We try not overhead water because that upsets the flowers. So we use leaky pipe system.
Right, and the good thing about this is you don't waste water then, do you?
No,
Because it's going purely to where
you're
it
overhead watering, then obviously evaporation just it just disappears.
Right.
So if you can get it onto the soil, everything's happy. You can even still be picking your flowers while you're watering, which is an even bigger bonus.
Yeah, and we all need to conserve water after a summer like the one we've just had.
We've learnt a lot this summer.
I bet.
But we've also learnt that some of the cut flowers are extremely resilient, and I'd probably prefer a dry summer than a wet summer.
Right, okay, which they're saying we might be getting.
Yeah.
I'll go and find Paula. I've lost her. She wandered off somewhere.
She's never here. She's always...
she's right down the bottom of the field over there. I can just see her bending over. I shall go and find her. Thanks, Stephen. I'll let you get on with whatever you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers. Well, these are all looking amazing, Paula. Really are. When you think, here we are, second week in September, and you've still got so much colour.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can get so much colour through various different types of cut flowers.
It's even got a bee in there. Look, a little bee.
Oh
just
my goodness.
waiting there.
Yes, hopefully that'll fly off. Zinnias. I don't know if you've grown zinnias before.
Not this year, but I have in the past, but
These
not as good as this.
No, these have been absolutely amazing this year. These have really enjoyed the hot weather this year. And I'm just picking these for a demonstration tomorrow night at the Stamford Flower Club. So one of my hats is a floral demonstrator for the North Midlands. So these are for my demo on stage, but mostly we pick flowers for other florists. Florists in Nottinghamshire that really want to use British grown stems.
So we're filming this, it's tea time,
Yes.
and you're using these tomorrow night. So why are you
Yes.
picking them 24 hours ahead of using them for a demo to a flower club?
Well, the key with all flowers that you might pick out of the garden is to give them a little bit of recovery time, is to pick them at least, I like to say, at least 24 hours before you're going to actually use them. And night time for us is the best time really, when the heat of the day has passed, and we can get them straight into water with some flower food. So I like to bring the buckets down into the field, straight in, and then they'll go up into the workshop where it's nice and cool, and we're very lucky we have a flower fridge. So they go into the flower fridge, and then in the morning they're all turgid and ready for either the florist to pick up or for me to handle and use in bouquets and things like that. So I think conditioning is always the key with British grown and flowers, you know, just out of your garden if you want to use them in the house. Give them a rest time.
That's a good tip, because people often cut bits and bobs out of the garden and put them straight into a vase.
And they wilt.
They wilt. So if you can then cut them the night before, put them in a bucket in a cool garage or a shed, then they're going to just fully charge up and they'll last so much better.
Yeah, and they're hungry, so the feed is the key, really. I mean, everybody that receives a bouquet sometimes gets a little sachet of food. And in that little sachet, there are not just food, there's a little bit of something to stop the bacteria forming, and there's also a little bit of something to lower the pH so that the stems can take up the food more readily. So if you didn't have a sachet of food, you could make your own little flower food mix if you wanted.
Oh, right. How'd you do that?
Well, you've probably heard people say a drop of lemonade, something like that, a bit of teaspoon of sugar, and that's absolutely fine, but you don't forget about the other things that stop the bacteria forming.
Right.
So a drop of bleach to stop that happening, and maybe a little bit of lemon juice or cider vinegar to lower the pH. So a little trio of ingredients there. To you know, so that the flowers can readily drink
get
it.
my chemistry set out next time I do
it.
So these are going to be used tomorrow, and we've got loads and loads around us, all different types. What's done well in this heat, because it's been a particularly hot summer, hasn't it, here? And I know Stephen's been talking about the irrigation, how you irrigate at soil level, but you say the zinnias, they've obviously not minded the heat, because they look so green and so lush.
Yeah, they absolutely have loved it. And I'll just show you, when you're picking zinnias, there's a little tip to know whether they're ready ready for picking. So we give them a bit of a waggle test, and you see how that's wobbling at the stem. That's not ready.
Oh, it's got to,
It'll just wilt. It's got to be quite rigid. So that one.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
That's ready, so we'll have that one actually.
I just want to try this for myself, just to make sure it's just not you doing it. Just to, I see. So I'm going to try that one, and I think that one, that one is well ready. Yeah. That's a good tip, that is.
Yeah, so often you can see if they're ready, if they're quite straight.
Yeah.
But even that's got a little kink on it, but do that just to make sure.
Good.
Absolutely.
So what else have we got here? Because these are annuals. You'll have grown these from seed every year, and then these will die when they get frosted, and you'll start again next year. But you've also got, I see, quite a lot of perennials in there.
Yeah, it's good for us to have a mix. There are certain perennials that we can use all the time, you know, for cutting. Like we've got this Achillea cloth of gold, which you can grow as a hardy perennial in a cottage garden, in your borders. Delphiniums, I mean, they have been amazing this year. They have actually loved the sun. But we've had 2 or 3 flushes off those, so we've cut them back. And they've sent out more spikes. And now I think that's about the 3rd set of spikes with the delphiniums. So they'll stay in situ and they'll grow quite happily through the netting that we've put on the ground. And we just raise, I don't know if Stephen explained, we raise that up.
Just to support them. Yes.
Yeah.
And I noticed you're growing a lot of different dahlias. There's a big bed down there of dahlias. First year. So is the plan to lift the tubers, or are you going to leave them in and risk it for next year?
We're not going to risk it, because I think if you're growing them in the garden and you just want them for decorative use in the garden, that's fine. You could leave them in and risk it, couldn't you? You might have better soil than us. We're on really heavy clay. But for us, we need those tubers to be fresh. We need them to be vigorous, to produce long, strong stalks. If we left them in and the old tubers start to develop, you know, we're going to lose the vigour of the cut flower. So it's a good practice for us to get them out of the ground, sort through the tubers, and also we'll overwinter them in the glass house, bring them on February time, and we'll take cuttings. And cuttings are the really best way, aren't they, for getting
you get
really
the vigour
strong.
then, and the long stems, exactly. And then just casting my across, chrysanthemums there, spray chrysanthemum, they're only just starting, so they're not going to be at their best probably for another 3 or 4 weeks?
Well, I'm already cutting from them, so we're also starting to supply some farm shops locally.
Wow, good.
So they're happy to have, and it's so nice when people want just seasonal stems again. It's when the florists order the flowers, it's wonderful, because they'll just send me a message of how many stems they want, what colours they want, but there's no specification. It's just I'll pick what's good at the time.
And I suppose they're just quite happy that they're British grown flowers, aren't they? Local as well.
Yeah.
And I've noticed as well quite a few straw flowers, the Helichrysum. They were really popular when I was young, before you were born, of course.
We're not that, there's not that much of an age.
But then they went out of fashion, but they're back in fashion, aren't they now?
Dried flowers have had a real comeback, and my workshop at the moment, we're air drying a lot of statice and these, and this little beauty here. This is a stem called Grasspedia. A lot of flower arrangers like to use this, and again, you don't sort of see it grown in Britain very much, and it is a perennial, but it's not fully hardy. So although we grow it out here, and it's out here at the moment, we will have to lift it and bring it in for the winter until we get our tunnels set up, and then we'll hopefully grow these in a tunnel so they've got a little bit of protection in winter, and a perennial. So
and by having the dried flowers, it means then in the middle of winter, when you've got very little to cut, you've got something that you can still supply.
Yes, definitely. And we're already thinking about the spring. We're going to put some tunnels up to grow ranunculus and anemones, those beautiful stems that we all really appreciate, as you just come through winter more than anything. So I'm quite excited.
Yeah, you should be. Well, you've worked really, really hard, the pair of you.
Thank you.
It's come on in leaps and bounds since I last saw it, and I know it's going to be extended because this is all your field, isn't it?
It is, yes. So, we're not going to grow cut flowers on all of it. There's a bit of woodland going in there.
There's only so much you can do, exactly, but it's great. Thanks for showing us around, and they look super. They really do. I'm going to let you carry on cutting, ready for your demo.
Cheers.
Looks like it'll be a lovely night tomorrow.
It will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and I hope that's given you some ideas and inspiration of cut flowers you can grow in your garden next year. Next time, we're going to be bringing you highlights of the Harrogate Autumn Flower Show at Newby Hall, so we'll see you then. Bye.